Hello and welcome to South Asia Focus. I am Smita Prakash. This week we discuss Indian Foreign Secretary Subramanian Jaishankar's crucial bilateral visit to Pakistan and other SAARC, that is South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation countries, as part of his SAARC Yatra, or Journey to SAARC Nations, which was aimed at improving ties with members of the grouping. Here's a report.
One of the most significant outcomes of Jaishankar's SAARC tour was a somewhat breaking of ice with Pakistan. Mr. Modi has since coming to power last year looked to strengthen relations with neighbours and other world powers. He has made bilateral visits to Nepal, Bhutan, Australia, Japan and of course the United States among others. However, relations with Pakistan, even though starting on a positive note, with Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif attending his counterpart Narendra Modi's swearing-in ceremony, went steadily downhill, with multiple ceasefire violations and border skirmishes dominating headlines. Since the beginning of October last year, Pakistan and India had been firing mortars and machine guns across the heavily populated border, resulting in the highest death toll of civilians in a decade. India maintained that it was Pakistan which had violated the ceasefire and indulged in heavy and incessant firing on Indian border posts and villages and described it as a routine ploy to aid terrorists to cross over from Pakistan into Jammu and Kashmir. Pakistan on its part had blamed India for the border skirmishes and in an expected move later even approached the United Nations appealing to it to intervene. This led to a total deadlock and a complete breakdown of dialogue between the two neighbours. The final blow came when India cancelled Foreign Secretary level talks with Pakistan after Pakistan's envoy to India met Kashmiri separatists much to India's dislike. Meanwhile, according to Jaishankar, both sides pledged to work together to find common ground and narrow differences.
We agreed to work together to find common ground and narrow differences. I reiterated our known concerns on cross-border terrorism, including on the Mumbai case. We agreed that ensuring peace and tranquility on the border was vital.
Even though Mr. Jaishankar visited Pakistan as part of his SAARC Yatra, he raised the two critical issues of cross-border terrorism, which included the Mumbai terror attack trials and also the violations along the line of control. Pakistan's Army Chief General Raheel Sharif had warned India of a befitting response to alleged provocation along the line of control just days before Jaishankar's arrival.
Influence with the help of them, that is called, strategic depth, which Pakistan has adopted. We don't see any indication, nor I have noticed any statement issued by the religious leader, of some significance, No fatwa was issued to withdraw jihad, So therefore, I don't see any change in the foreign policy of Pakistan. They'll continue to use in the coming years also. And today when they released Lakwi, that has just proved the point,
Yesterday, Hafiz Saeed's statement came. He blamed India for the Peshawar attack.
You see, all these people, this is what they have been doing, the blame game, They don't accept their involvement in militancy or, for that matter, in terrorism, They always accuse India, for each and everything, They say this is homegrown. Sometimes they'll say these are the Kashmiri militants, who have come from Kashmir, We support the Kashmiri struggle. We have nothing to do with them. But the international community understands very well Pakistan's game plan. Everybody knows, the militant camps are organized by the Pakistani intelligence agencies or the army, and not one, there are several camps in which the people from different countries are being trained in Pakistan and they are exported to different countries, What is happening in the Islamic world today? Pakistan is responsible for all these things, whether it is Iraq, whether it is Yemen, whether it is Syria, or whether it is that far, even in Nigeria, the Boko Haram leader, he speaks Urdu. He spent almost 15-20 years in Pakistan. He was trained by here. His organization, Boko Haram, was formed in Pakistan. Many of these organizations were formed in Pakistan, and they were later exported to their countries, you know.
However, talks between the two sides remain cordial. The Pakistan side raised the issues of Kashmir, the Samjhauta Express attack and the Indian involvement in Balochistan and FATA. Further, the Pakistani Foreign Secretary Ejaz Ahmed Chaudhry said that an effort was needed to resolve the Kashmir dispute.
My discussion with the Indian Foreign Secretary covered bilateral and regional issues of mutual concern and common interest, including the Jammu and Kashmir dispute. I told my Indian counterpart that the leadership and people of Pakistan were deeply attached to the cause of Jammu and Kashmir, and we need to make a concerted effort to resolve this dispute and indeed other disputes like Siachen, Sir Creek, and water issues that could also be addressed through dialogue.
The Indian Foreign Secretary also called on Pakistan Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, who reiterated his vision of peace for development. Jaishankar also handed over a letter from Prime Minister Narendra Modi to Sharif. Both the countries need to start a new chapter in their relationship by working towards resolving all outstanding issues through dialogue. We must think together, act together and move forward with the spirit of bringing the two nations closer to each other, Sharif told Jaishankar, according to a statement from the office of the Pakistani Prime Minister. Pakistan Foreign Ministry spokesperson Tasneem Aslam termed the meeting between the two foreign secretaries as an ice-breaking development, while Jaishankar said the talks were constructive and positive. In an interesting development, China also reacted to the meeting by saying that improving ties between India and Pakistan was of principal importance to peace and development in the region, and even extended its support to help resolve bilateral issues through dialogue. Even the European Union welcomed resumption of talks between India and Pakistan, saying it was an indicator of positive approach and a stable relationship of confidence between the two neighbours.
During his SAARC Yatra, Mr. Jaishankar also visited Bangladesh, Afghanistan and Bhutan. Starting off with Bhutan, he then landed in Dhaka. He called on Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, Foreign Minister A.H. Mahmood Ali and also held talks with his Bangladeshi counterpart Shahidul Haq.
The Teesta Water Sharing Agreement and the Land Border Agreement are important long-standing issues between the two nations. India has been in the talks with the Awami League government since 2009. The last setback to the Teesta deal happened during former Prime Minister Singh's September 2011 visit, when West Bengal Chief Minister Mamta Banerjee objected to the deal. Mr. Jaishankar avoided talking in detail on Teesta but said the land border agreement was taken up. Speaking to the media, Jaishankar said that it was his first visit to Bangladesh and he was glad to be in Dhaka.
I'm delighted to be here. It's my first visit to Bangladesh. I'm here as part of a SAARC Yatra. We had very good discussions. I look forward to my further meetings today. So we discussed SAARC issues, BIMSTEC issues, bilateral issues. So we had a very good meeting. So at this moment, that's all I would like to say.
Foreign Secretary Jaishankar then flew into Kabul from Islamabad and was received by senior Afghan officials and Indian High Commissioner Amar Sinha. He first called on Afghanistan's Chief Executive Officer Abdullah Abdullah and later held talks with Afghan President Dr. Ashraf Ghani. Afghanistan had recently faced a natural calamity with about 250 people killed in a horrific avalanche in a valley near Kabul. Prime Minister Narendra Modi had written to Afghanistan President Ghani to condole the loss of lives and had offered help in rescue and relief efforts.
The Indian Foreign Secretary also accompanied the Foreign Minister to Sri Lanka for talks with the island nation's new government. The Indian Prime Minister will be in Sri Lanka next week, the first by an Indian Prime Minister in more than 25 years.
Foreign Minister Sushma Swaraj arrived in Colombo ahead of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit and interacted with former President of Sri Lanka, Chandrika Kumaratunga, and other dignitaries on Friday. She also met Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe on Saturday in the backdrop of Wickremesinghe's controversial remark that any fisherman, if entered Sri Lankan waters, could be shot. India shares an extensive oceanic border with Sri Lanka without any perceptible demarcation, and fishermen on both sides ignore rules while netting their catch.
India's ties with Sri Lanka had taken a hit during former President Rajapaksa's rule, as China had expanded its footprint in the island nation by building ports, highways and participating in other infrastructure projects. The Indian Prime Minister's visit is close on the heels of the Sri Lankan President's visit to India, when the two countries signed a civil nuclear agreement. Next week in South Asia Focus, we will bring you a report on the Indian Prime Minister's visit to Sri Lanka, Mauritius and Seychelles. Thank you for watching.